Part 71. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 701. Sister Qin appeared in court again, vaguely feeling that the situation seemed to have changed, and she was even more disturbed than before. Mu Zi asked her, "Witness, according to what Zhang Rong said just now, Qin Lu provided Zhao Jiawai with a full set of double flying services on July 30th. Is this true?" "Ah, yes, that's right." Sister Qin nodded. "Can you tell everyone the price of the full set and double fly?" Mu Zi asked. Sister Qin said, "The standard price for a full set is 1,200 yuan, and Zhuangfei is double the price." After she finished answering, she rolled her eyes, fearing that Mu Zi would find something wrong. She hastily added, "This is just the price, and customers usually give tips. We don't take a cut of the tips. They are all for the young lady, like Mr. Zhao Jiawai. The scale of the game is relatively large, and the tip is a lot every time. Qin Lu earned thousands of dollars that day. You can check her bank account for this." Mu Zi smiled slightly, and asked Sister Qin, "Do you think that as long as Qin Lu takes the money, this matter is not considered rape?" "Isn't it?" Sister Qin said, "while giving the money, I voluntarily sold it. It would be too unprofessional to bite back after the transaction. I persuaded Qin Lu before, but she didn't listen, saying it was her own. His condition has deteriorated, and the treatment expenses he prepared were not enough, so we can only focus on Mr. Zhao Jiawai." In her testimony, Sister Qin tried her best to portray Qin Lu as a greedy and insatiable sinister prostitute. After hearing this, the members of the jury all showed disgusted expressions. Sister Qin felt that she had made a contribution and was complacent. Mu Zi was not moved at all. "Really?" Mu Zi asked lightly, "if that's the case, why did Ms. Zhang Rong, who provided services with Qin Lu, only receive a mere 800 yuan from the bank that day?" This time, Chu Mingjun acted as her deputy and sent the bank statements printed in advance to the judge and jury one by one. One of them was handed to Sister Qin. The place where the 800 yuan was earned was marked prominently with a red pen. Sister Qin looked at the piece of paper in front of her, and was stunned. She never expected that Mu Zi would check Zhang Rong's bank statement. The lie that Zhang Rong and Qin Lu went together was a temporary countermeasure they came up with, and they didn't have time to cover it up. "Can't you answer?" Mu Zi looked at her expressionlessly. "The full set of 1002, double fly double, and Mr. Zhao Jiawai's generous tip, where did it all go?" This. Sister Qin opened her mouth, cold sweat dripping from her forehead. Mu Zi stared at her coldly. "Witness, did Zhang Rong really go with Qin Lu on July 30? Of course, Sister Qin was in a panic, trying to make up a reason. "Zhang Rong's money didn't arrive." "Yes, it didn't arrive. We have to go to the public account, and we will pay the money later. It often happens." "What about the 800 yuan?" Mu Zi asked. "Why isn't the 800 yuan delayed?" "That's the debt from last week," Sister Qin said casually. "The guests that Zhang Rong received last week just settled the payment on the 30th. Mu Zi looked at her with a half smile. "Are you sure?" "Of course. I arrange where the ladies go to do business. I'm very sure," Sister Qin said seriously. "Oh, that customer always defaults, but we don't want to offend people, right? So let him drag you around every time. Miss Lawyer, you don't want to ask me who the client is, do you?" Sister Qin giggled twice, and continued, "I'm so sorry, I really can't say this. You have to abide by the rules of the party when you eat a meal. Customer information is private, so don't talk about it." After finishing speaking, he proudly stroked his hair on the sideburns. His eyes were full of pride. Mu Zi smiled lightly, took out a piece of paper, and placed it in front of her. This piece of paper was the evidence issued by Lawyer Meng just now. It marked the stars of the service girls and their menstrual periods. The week before July 30th happens to be Zhang Rong's menstrual period. How does she receive guests? Mu Zi asked. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 702. The menstrual period is equivalent to their monthly rest day. How can they pick up customers? Mu Zi's words were like throwing a heavy stone into a lake, stirring up huge waves. Everyone looked shocked. The witness was lying. And this lie was obviously to cover up for Zhao Jiawei. Now that Mu Zi had exposed the lie, Zhao Jiawei's face turned red with embarrassment. He gritted his teeth, and stared fiercely at Li Fengqin on the witness stand. What a mistake! This idiot thought he was smart and said a lot, but Mu Zi caught him. Sister Qin's smile froze at the corner of her mouth, cold sweat dripped from her forehead, and her face was extremely ugly. This menstrual period. Sister Qin murmured, racking her brains to think of an excuse. Maybe it's because. Are you trying to say that this menstrual period is inaccurate? Mu Zi raised the corners of her lips slightly, and looked at her sarcastically. Then, is Zhang Rong's menstrual period earlier or later? Sister Qin was dripping with cold sweat. Yes. Can't answer, can you? Mu Zi's eyes were shining brightly, and when she narrowed her eyes slightly, she seemed to have a cold light, because Zhang Rong's bank statement for the entire July, only that week has no income. The prostitution you said arrears do not exist at all. So you can't answer. On July 30th, Zhang Rong was serving another client. They didn't provide any full set of double flights with Qin Lu at all, and the 800 yuan was paid by the other party. Objection. Attorney Meng stood up in a panic. I object to the other party's lawyer interfering with the witness's objective and truthful statement. The female judge glanced indifferently and said, the objection is invalid. Mu Zi said, Your Honor, considering the privacy and particularity of the evidence we will present next, we apply to close the doors and windows of the scene and isolate irrelevant people. The judge subconsciously glanced at Chu Mingjun, but he saw that Chu Mingjun was looking at Mu Zi eagerly, as if he was looking forward to it. Who is acting as an agent for whom? The female judge was suspicious, so she allowed Mu Zi's application and asked the bailiff to close the doors and windows. Chu Mingjun and another assistant lawyer distributed the prepared injury report to the jury members and the judge. What caught my eye were shocking photos of the injured. The woman's private parts are exposed in front of her eyes. There are not only dripping blood, but also charred soot, redness, swelling and erosion, and she has been tortured so that there is no good skin. Just looking at it hurts. Many members of the jury looked uncomfortable. Mu Zi's voice was cold, and he said unhurriedly, there are cuts on private parts caused by razors, burns caused by cigarette butts, and soft tissue contusions and cigarette burns on breasts, buttocks, and thighs. She held up the photo so that Sister Qin on the witness stand could see it more clearly. After Qin Lu was sent to the hospital, the doctor took out a total of 16 cigarette butts from her private parts. Zhao Jiawei beat her, insulted her, tied her up, cut her with a knife, cut her with smoke and burned her. How could any normal person voluntarily accept such abuse? You said that the scale is large and the remuneration is high, but after she got the 6,000 yuan remuneration, she had to rest for at least 2 or 3 months. Unable to pick up guests during this period, no income. If Qin Lu hadn't been deceived by you that day, who would be willing to do such a loss-making business? Mu Zi showed the medical expense list to everyone, and said loudly, the 6,000 yuan remuneration is all used for medical expenses. Suffering from illness and suffering from no income for 2 months, if it is not for coercion and coercion, my client, how could this happen? Lawyer Meng couldn't bear it anymore, and retorted loudly, since she is willing to provide high-star services, she has acquiesced in the existence of risks. How can there be such a reason in the world? Mu Zi shot back, when a man and a woman establish a husband and wife relationship together, They also tacitly agree that the husband and wife must fulfill their obligations. But if the wife disagrees and the husband forcibly commits violence, it still belongs to rape. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 703. Lawyer Meng was furious. The opposing lawyer distorts the facts with inappropriate metaphors. It is deliberately exaggerating and deteriorating the legitimate and legal transaction behavior of my client, Mr. Zhao Jiawei. Muzi's eyes were ice cold, and his eyes were cold. Zhao Jiawei violated my client's wishes and used violence, threats, and other means to violate my client, which has constituted the crime of adultery. Any sexual act is accompanied by mild or severe violence. Violence is just a side dish in a special service. It is a legal commodity purchased by my client. Commodity, Muzi sneered. I think I need to review for the defense lawyers, Article 236 of the criminal law. The crime of adultery refers to the use of violence, coercion, or other means against a woman's will, forcibly having sexual intercourse with women. Muzi asked, attorney for the defense, please answer me. Is my client, Ms. Jean Liu, a woman? Is she a woman? Women should be protected by law when they are violated illegally. Lawyer Meng retorted angrily, we must take into account the particularity of this case. The plaintiff's occupation is unique. Muzi raised her voice abruptly, citizens are equal before the law. The so-called particularity of the defense lawyers is just a convenient excuse imagined for the privileged class. She stared directly at the other party with cold and stern eyes, and each word seemed to carry invisible power, and it sounded forcefully in the court. Chapter 2 of the Constitution, Article 33, the state respects and protects human rights, and any citizen enjoys the rights of the Constitution and rights under law. Any citizen. Whether she is rich or poor, whether she is noble or humble, she is entitled to the protection of the law. Even if she is a slut who can do her best by herself. No one can hurt her with this so-called specialness. Humiliate her. You. Attorney Meng brought it up in one breath, his face flushed from holding back, and he was speechless. The audience was silent. It was so quiet that only the rapid breathing of the defense lawyer remained. Everyone looked at that petite figure in shock. She stood in the trial hall with a straight back and clear eyes, but it seemed to be radiant, which made the back look taller for no reason. Just now, they thought that Chu Mingjun had given up. Just now, they thought the little girl was playing house. In an instant, the reversal was like a powerful slap, slapping them hard on the face. We request the court to arrest the defendant Zhao Jiawei for the crime of rape, and claim a total of 3.5 million for medical expenses and mental damage. These were the original words that Chu Mingjun said at the beginning of the court session, word for word, but at this moment when it was said through Muzi's mouth, it seemed to carry a different weight. The female judge's expression became serious, she looked at Muzi deeply, and after a long time, she notified the jury to leave for discussion. The results came out quickly, and the 12 people unanimously decided that Zhao Jiawei was guilty. When the judge announced the verdict, Zhao Jiawei sat paralyzed on his seat like a mourning concubine, and Lawyer Meng was also disheartened. He didn't even know how he lost, he just felt that everything was too sudden, and before he was ready, Muzi had already taken control of the overall situation. Zhao Jiawei was arrested in court, and when the judicial police took him out, the reporters outside pressed the shutters of their cameras like crazy. The female judge walked down the court, came to Muzi, and stretched out her right hand towards her. Muzi shook hands with the judge. Very beautiful. The female judge looked at her with a smile, and she didn't know whether to praise her for her beauty, or for her beautiful handling of the lawsuit. Muzi smiled and frowned, returning to her innocent girlish appearance, "Thank you." The judge glanced at the jury seat and said with a smile, "I have never seen a jury who reached a consensus so quickly. They were conquered by your charm." Musei shook her head slightly. "No, they were conquered by the charm of justice. There is justice in everyone's heart. And she is just a voice, shouting out what is in their hearts for them. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again." Author, HhandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 704. After the trial, Lu finally couldn't hold back, covered her face and burst into tears. She can get the compensation, and she doesn't have to wait to die anymore. Musei came over to comfort her. "Okay, don't cry, let's go out to eat." As he spoke, he laughed at himself. "My stomach is almost flattened." During the 1-hour break at noon, none of them had enough to eat. Lu couldn't help herself, and hugged Musei suddenly. Like a wronged child who found support, she cried even harder. Musei felt a little uncomfortable. She was not used to having such intimate contact with people. Chu Mingjun said with emotion on his face, "Miss Sister, let her cry for a while, she will feel uncomfortable if she holds it in her heart." Not to mention that Lu wanted to cry, Chu Mingjun also wanted to cry. It was not easy for them to win this lawsuit. Seeing the victory in hand being snatched away, and even beaten up by the opponent, the feeling of uselessness and aggrievedness is simply indescribable. Fortunately, they still won in the end. When Lu calmed down a little, the group walked out of the court. The reporters outside have dispersed, and the blue sky and white clouds make people feel comfortable and open. Musei was surprised to see Chen waiting outside, and then happily ran over. "Why are you here?" Didn't it mean that he couldn't bear the hypocrisy of the literati in the court who put on airs and cursed others? Chen patted her head. "I'm afraid you won't have a place to cry if you lose the lawsuit." Like a proud little rooster, Musei raised her head and said, "Will I lose? Even if the evidence is insufficient, she will make the case a postponement, and she will never wait for the other party to seize the results." Chen smiled and said, "Yes, you will not lose. If you lose, I will blow up this place." "Keep your voice down." Musei hurriedly covered his mouth, and looked around nervously. "What nonsense are you talking? Be careful not to be overheard." Chen pulled her hand away, and glanced down at her crumpled skirt, which still had wet marks on it. "What is this?" he asked. "This." Musei pursed her lips and smiled. "This is probably tears of happiness." While speaking, Chu Mingjun, Lu, and the assistant lawyer came over to say hello. "I can't eat for the time being, I have to go to the hospital." Chu Mingjun glanced at Chen, then at Musei, and said narrowly, "Miss Sister, I won't go to celebrate with you. Lawyer Chu was injured because of me." "I'll go to the hospital with Lawyer Qu." Lu said with interest. There was only one trainee lawyer left, patted the back of his head, and said awkwardly, "I too, go to the hospital too." Seeing everyone like this, Musei couldn't help but blush, knowing that they didn't want to be light bulbs. Chen was calm and composed. He put his arms around her shoulders and said, "Then let's make an appointment another day." So, Chu Mingjun and the others went to the hospital, while Musei and Chen went to eat. Musei was really hungry. When she was concentrating on it just now, she didn't feel it, but now that the matter was over, her stomach began to sing and growl non-stop. The two of them found a restaurant that specializes in southern dishes, and the taste was fairly authentic. Musei enjoyed eating, and Chen was also happy watching her eat. During the meal, Musei told Chen intermittently what happened during the trial. "You don't know how perverted that Zhao Jiawai is." Musei ate his mouth full. This is not the first time he committed a crime. Before that, a few nightclub ladies fell into his hands. He didn't make much money, but instead put his body to death. It was completely ruined, Even if the wound was healed, the scars on the body would affect the business, and later this matter spread in the circle. No lady was willing to do his business, and they all avoided him. As she was talking, she didn't know what she thought of, and she was in a daze. Murong Cheng wiped the rice grains from the corner of her mouth, and asked, "What's wrong?" "Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again." Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 705. Mu Zi came back to her senses, paused, and swallowed the food in her mouth. "It's nothing, just thinking of Qin Lu. Her tumor has spread. Even if she gets the money, the success rate of the operation seems to be only half." Mu Zi sighed, and said with a bit of regret, "If the operation is successful, I really hope she can change her job. She finally saved her life. Doing such a high-risk job again would be a waste of God's gift." After she finished speaking, she took a bite of the food and said to herself, "Forget it, everyone has their own way of living, and I'm not qualified to teach others how to live. Let her go. Continue to bury your head and eat." Murong Cheng rubbed her hair amusedly. "What do you think about every day with your little head? You even care about other people's lives, why don't you care more about yourself?" Mu Zi raised her head, smiled and said happily to him, "Because you care about me, so I have time to care about others." Recently, her small mouth has become sweeter and sweeter. The two happily finished their meal, returned to the hotel, made a phone call with Baiwei, and booked a return ticket to Qingjiang the next morning. The next day, when Mu Zi and Murong Cheng left the hotel, someone rushed to the hotel. "What?" Chen Kailing was surprised and disappointed. "Already left?" The lady at the front desk of the hotel smiled and said, "Yes, I checked out early in the morning." "That's it, thank you." Chen Kailing forced a smile, and walked out of the hotel disappointed. The accompanying bodyguard opened the car door for her, and Chen Kailing got into the car. The driver asked, "Ma'am, are you going back now?" Chen Kailing was silent for a while, shook her head lightly, and then announced the name of another hotel, where she was going to meet Chu Mingjun. Although the lawsuit is over, Chu Mingjun can't leave immediately. He has to discuss some finishing work with the Zhao family's lawyer, such as the payment of compensation, so he will leave Jingling later than Mu Zi. Chen Kailing had never appeared in the public media, so Chu Mingjun didn't know her. When he saw her, he only felt that this lady was gentle, dignified, noble, and elegant. "Lawyer Chu, I went to Miss Mu according to the address you mentioned, but she has already left." Chen Kailing was very anxious and asked Chu Mingjun, "Can you help me contact her?" Chu Mingjun dialed Mu Zi's phone number, but he couldn't get through. "It's probably about to board the plane, so the phone is turned off." Chu Mingjun comforted her, "Mrs. Chen, don't worry, I will tell her about your affairs when I return to Qingjiang." "Will Ms. Mu not want to take my brother's case?" Chen Kailing grasped for a chance, and if she was told to let go again, she would feel extremely painful. "Lawyer Chu, can Ms. Mu win this case?" "This." Chu Mingjun looked embarrassed. "Frankly speaking, I don't know if Ms. Mu will take over. She usually has a lot of schoolwork, and she has to prepare for the judicial examination. This time, Ms. Qin Lu's case is mine. If I can't stand it anymore, I will let her take over." The implication is that Mu Zi is very busy. Chen Kailing was even more anxious. Holding out hope, she purposely went to attend Qin Lu's case. Although it was not a public trial, the Chen family had some connections in the judiciary, so it was easy for her to arrange a seat for her. As a result, the witness suddenly turned against him at the beginning of the scene, and Chen Kailing was taken aback. At that time, she thought the case was over. When the court was adjourned, she was still disappointed and thought, "What a waste of time today." But after the trial was held again, the situation suddenly reversed. A lie is like a thin piece of paper under Mu Zi's persecution, vulnerable to a single blow. Chen Kaling suddenly realized, and immediately understood that Mu Zi was the key, but the other party was only a teenage girl student after all. Even if Chen Kaling trusted her, what about the rest of the Chen family? After Chen Kaling went back, she spent the whole night persuading her parents, and then came to Mu Zi early this morning. But Mu Zi left jingling. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 706. Ms. Chen, don't worry, I will fully convey your brother's case to Ms. Mu. Chu Mingjun reassured, tomorrow at the latest, I will definitely tell you the result. Chu Mingjun has seen too many customers who come to him in a hurry like this, and he can deal with them calmly. But his words could not soothe the anxiety in Chen Kaling's heart at all. What if Mu Zi refuses to accept the case? Let someone convey it on your behalf. How can you explain clearly? Besides, it would be more sincere than going to the door in person. Chen Kaling's thoughts changed, and she immediately made a decision. When will lawyer Chu return to Qingjiang? I want to meet Miss Mu in person. Chen Kaling's attitude was too eager, which made Chu Mingjun feel the pressure. He couldn't help persuading him, Ms. Chen, you may be unhappy if I say this, but, I still want you to be mentally prepared. Mu the lady is only a temporary assistant in my law firm. She took your case because of morality, and if she didn't take it, it was her right. She is a student and has no obligation to take over your case. Can you understand me when I say this? Chen Kaling was taken aback for a moment, and then smiled. Lawyer Chu, you and Ms. Mu must be very good friends, right? If it is not a very good friend, as a lawyer, who would push the door-to-door business out? Seeing that there was no anger on her face, Chu Mingjun heaved a sigh of relief, and replied with a smile, Ma'am, to tell you the truth, my law firm was half dead at the beginning. It is thanks to her that it has the scale it is today. She also taught me how to deal with it. If you have less things, you can be regarded as my half-master. Chen Kaling nodded slightly. She was not an arrogant person. Although what Chu Mingjun said was not pleasant, after thinking about it, it made her feel more at ease. At least it shows that the other party has a very good character and is not the kind who is greedy for profit. Let them take over the case of his younger brother, and Chen Kaling feels at ease. Don't worry, Lawyer Chu, I won't make things difficult for others. I went to see Ms. Mu just to explain the matter to her clearly. Chen Kaling said, my younger brother has been in prison for 2 years. I don't want to rescue him all the time. You can understand how I feel. I can understand. Chu Mingjun nodded. If there is a grievance, I believe Miss Mu will do her best to help you. Chen Kaling was a little relieved, and made an appointment with Chu Mingjun to go to Qingjiang, and then returned home. Even though there were still a few days before going to Qingjiang, she couldn't calm down. She called her parents at home and started packing her luggage. Sidu Yan came back early today, and as soon as he entered the room, he saw his wife was busy. Chen Kaling's expression looked anxious, but her eyes were very bright, and her face was radiant. For a moment, Sidu Yan couldn't tell whether she was in a good mood or a bad mood. What's the matter? He asked with a smile. Chen Kaling folded clothes in her hands, and replied after hearing the words, I'm going to Qingjiang City. Qingjiang, Sidu Yan was slightly taken aback. Why did you go to Qingjiang? Go to see that Miss Mu. Chen Kaling looked back at him with a bright face. That's the most beautiful judicial candidate, do you remember? I went to attend her court defense yesterday, it's unbelievable. Ah Yan, maybe this time my brother's case is really hopeful. Sidu Yan was very surprised. She is from Qingjiang. In fact, it was mentioned in the news that Mu Zi is a student of Ji Rui School in Qingjiang City, but Sidu Yan is a busy person, so why would he pay attention to an ordinary candidate? Yes, she is studying in Xinjiang. Chen Kailing didn't notice her husband's surprise. She packed her clothes and said, Ian, you really should see her, that child is really a genius. I don't know what kind of parents educated them. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 707. Ian, Chen Kailing turned her head and saw that her husband was still in a daze, so she couldn't help asking worriedly, what's the matter, are you too tired from today's speech? She put down the clothes in her hand, walked up to Sidu Yan, and massaged his shoulders and head for him. Your complexion has been getting worse and worse recently. Although the campaign is important, you can't be sloppy with your body. Chen Kailing rubbed slowly and sighed. Go back to the hospital for a physical examination? Do you still think you are a 20-year-old boy? Such a big person, I don't know how to cherish my body. Sidu Yan smiled and said, why, I'm only 40 years old, and you think I'm old? Chen Kailing smiled and slapped him lightly. The couple talked for a while in the house, and the servant came and asked them to go downstairs for dinner. Sidu Yan's parents were there, as well as Ning Yue, who had been fostered at Sidu's house since childhood. The family sat down at the dining table. While eating, Chen Kailing mentioned to the elders that she was going out for a trip. Chen Kailing didn't go into too much detail. After all, it was absurd to find a child to investigate the case, so she only said that a friend introduced a lawyer, who might be able to help her brother reverse the case, and she wanted to talk to him in person. Chen Kailing's mother-in-law, Mrs. Sidu, was displeased when she heard the words. She frowned and said, Yan is now in a critical period, and you may be required to attend some occasions later, but you have to go to other places. What's the matter? Okay, although Yan's matter is important, Chen 11's case is also important. Mr. Sidu stopped the old lady's complaints, and said unhurriedly, if the case can be successfully reversed, Yan's future career will also be reduced. A source of criticism. The fact that his wife's younger brother was murdered and imprisoned is also a big stain on the future president. Mrs. Sidu frowned even more when she thought of this. Chen Kailing was her daughter-in-law chosen by herself. At first, she thought that Chen Kailing was a famous lady, soft and gentle, and she was satisfied with everything, but when she really married into the family, she didn't like it no matter how she looked at it. After so many years, not only did she not give birth to a boy and a half-girl, but her brother killed his wife viciously, which was simply a huge scandal. If it weren't for the scruples, the divorce might make people say that Sidu Yan is ungrateful, and the old lady will definitely force her son to divorce and remarry. When will you be back? Mrs. Sidu asked with a cold face and a flat tone. There is a charity dinner next week, and you have to attend with Yan, so you can't delay the business. Sidu Yan helped his wife and replied, Kailing just went to Xinjiang, she didn't go abroad, she will be back in a day or two at most. Mom, don't worry. Kong dang. The white porcelain spoon fell into the bowl with a crisp sound. Everyone looked up at Ning Yue. Ning Yue looked at Chen Kailing in surprise, and blurted out, Auntie, are you going to Xinjiang? Before Chen Kailing could answer, Ning Yue asked again, you're not going to find that museum, are you? Don't be fooled. The old lady's face darkened suddenly. What's going on? Who is museum? Chen Kailing's heart immediately suspended, fearing that the old lady would not agree to her going to Xinjiang. She hurriedly explained, no, I went to listen on purpose, that child does have some real talents. Child, the old lady grasped the point, the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes drooped, and doubts appeared in her eyes. Ning Yue said in a strange way, yeah, that Musi hasn't graduated from high school yet, and she is the best at flattering the rich and powerful. Those rich people in Xinjiang city are all stupefied by her, she is also considered the means are great. The old lady was furious, looked at Chen Kailing, and said sharply, Do you know what time it is? The general election is coming to an end, and your husband is exhausted every day. As a wife, you don't want to think about what to do for him, to share the burden, but you want to find a child to sue your Chen family. You think the joke is not big enough. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 708. Chen Kailing's eyes were red, she bit her lips and remained silent. Sidu Yan felt irritated, and said to his mother, "It is precisely because I am not sure whether the other party is capable enough, so I should go and have a look. Chen 11 has suffered in it for the past 2 years, and Cai Ling can't feel at ease seeing her younger brother being wronged. We should give it a try whenever we get a chance, it's human nature." Seeing her son speaking for his wife, the old lady became even more annoyed, and shouted, "What wronged him? He committed murder and violated the law. If my Sidhu family hadn't hired a lawyer to help him, he would have been shot." "My brother didn't kill anyone," Chen Kailing burst into tears. "Since she was a child, her family has been strict, and she can't do anything to contradict her elders. She can tolerate everything else, but she can't be silent about her younger brother." "He was wrong." Chen Kailing squeezed her chopsticks tightly, her knuckles turned white. "He is just short-tempered, but in fact he is very soft-hearted. It is impossible for him to kill someone. One day the truth will be revealed." After Chen Kailing finished speaking, she took a deep breath, put down the bowl and chopsticks, and said in a low voice, "Dad, Mom, I'm done eating." Seeing his wife leave the table, Sidhu Yan couldn't finish the meal, so he sighed and said, "Mom, why can't we have a peaceful meal? Who won't let you eat with peace of mind? Who is the one who turned his face away?" The old lady was full of anger. "Don't you know about her brother's case? Someone saw him murder with his own eyes. Now is your critical period, but she wants to give you a slap in the face. A murderer overturns the case." The old lady couldn't think about it, and the more she thought about it, the more panicked she became. She wanted to say more, but was interrupted by Mr. Sidhu in a deep voice. "Okay," the old man's voice was not loud, but he was full of majesty, "don't say a few words and eat." Sidhu Yan ate a few mouthfuls, but there was no taste in his mouth. He got up and said, "I've finished eating. There is another speech tomorrow. I'll read the speech." Mr. Sidhu nodded slightly, and said, "Rest early, you look very bad recently. Voters look forward to seeing a president who is always full of energy. If you feel tired, you might as well adjust your schedule and reduce the chances of appearing on the screen, which is better than sluggishness appear in the public eye." Sidhu Yan nodded, got up and left. He was worried about Chen Kailing, and when he returned to the bedroom, he saw Chen Kailing sitting by the bed sobbing softly. "Oh." Sidhu Yan walked over and sat down beside her. "Mom is getting older, and her temper is getting more and more eccentric, and you have been wronged." Chen Kailing shook her head, and asked Sidhu Yan, "Why did you come back so soon? Didn't you eat much? You shouldn't be like this. Every day is already hard enough. If you don't eat well, how can your body bear it?" As he spoke, he was about to get up. "I'll go to the kitchen and ask them to bring you a bowl of soup." "No need." Sidhu Yan pulled her back, and said calmly, "I don't have an appetite, I want to lie down for a while. Kailing, please help me massage my head again." Chen Kailing sat down as she said, and massaged Sidhu Yan as usual, but felt a little hot when she touched his skin. "You have a fever." Chen Kailing was slightly startled, and immediately took an electronic thermometer from the drawer to help him measure his temperature. The temperature showed a low-grade fever. Sidhu Yan didn't realize that he was sick, he just felt a little dizzy and lack of energy. "Maybe it's because I haven't had a good rest recently," he said. "Lie down and rest, I'll get the medicine." Chen Kailing helped him to lie down, turned around to get the antipyretic medicine, and brought hot water over. Sidhu Yan swallowed the medicine with hot water, and then fell into a drowsy sleep. Looking at her sick husband, Chen Kaling couldn't help but feel entangled. Feeling sorry for her husband's body for a while, and hesitating for a while, is it appropriate to leave her sick husband alone and run to Xinjiang? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 709. The next day, Sidu Yan's health improved. Chen Kaling breathed a sigh of relief. While paying attention to the progress of her husband's campaign, she continued to prepare for the trip to Xinjiang. However, on this day, the headlines that should have belonged to Sidu Yan were squeezed out by others. Netizens crazily reposted a video, which turned out to be the scene of Mu Ziyi's lawsuit a few days ago. Although the hearing was closed that day, the auditorium was not empty. Some potential witnesses, family members, and friends of the plaintiff and the defendant were all present. It is unknown who secretly recorded the scene with a mobile phone. The voice in the video is clear and powerful. Because of the angle, Mu Ziyi can only see half of her profile in it. The ashen faces of the witnesses and defense lawyers could be seen at a glance. In just a few minutes of the trial, people joked that there was no peeing during the whole process. The video was initially reposted among acquaintances and friends, and then went viral 3 days later, making headlines. Taking advantage of the popularity, someone immediately set up a social network fan group account for Mu Ziyi on the internet, attracting 40,000 fans in just one day. Just like that, Mu Ziyi accidentally became an internet celebrity. Chen Kaling breathed a sigh of relief, because in this way, her parents should be able to accept Mu Ziyi's defense for her younger brother. Although they were persuaded before, the parents actually agreed with some reluctance. As for the mother-in-law, after all, this case is a family matter of the Chen family. No matter how unhappy the mother-in-law is, she can only complain a few words and cannot intervene forcefully. Chen Kaling's side was full of joy, but someone gritted their teeth with hatred. Ning Yue never expected that the situation she carefully set up would become a stepping stone for Mu Ziyi. Instead of making her notorious, it made her famous. In fact, Ning Yue's hatred for Mu Ziyi is not strong. If Mu Ziyi stumbled this time, Ning Yue would probably just smile, and after a while, Yun Yan would never remember that there was such a person as Mu Ziyi. However, things backfired. It felt as if I was walking on the side of the road and kicked a small stone at random, but the small stone bounced back like a fool, hitting my face so painfully. The anger in my heart went straight to my head. The hatred became bigger and bigger. In this anger, Ning Yue wanted to swallow Mu Ziyi alive. She was literally pissed off. The most exasperating thing is that her aunt actually showed a look of admiration for Mu Ziyi, and even asked Mu Ziyi to help reverse the case. Could it be that she carefully selected legal aid cases and sent Qin Lu to Mu Ziyi's side in order to make Mu Ziyi a guest of Sidu's family from now on? This is so ironic. Ning Yue will never allow this. Ning Yue knew very well that if she wanted to gain a firm foothold in Sidu's family, she ultimately relied on Sidu Yan and Chen Kaling. Even if the prestige of the old gentleman and old lady in the family is still there, but the two old people are already 70, how many years can they live? Thinking of these things, Ning Yue couldn't sleep. Her mood was restless. She has to find a way to make Chen Kaling hate Mu Ziyi. It's best to hate Mu Ziyi completely. In a blink of an eye, it was the day when Chen Kaling was about to leave. In the past few days, Sidu Yan's health has not been very good. The low-grade fever subsided and returned within a few days. Fortunately, there are no other symptoms, so the condition is barely okay. It's just that the mother-in-law will inevitably say some nasty things in a weird way, to the effect that she only cares about finding a lawyer for her younger brother, and doesn't care about her husband's life or death. Because she didn't take good care of Sidu Yan fell ill. The old man was getting old, and it was really unreasonable to lose his temper. No matter how wrong Chen Kailing felt, he could only endure it as much as possible. When Chen Kailing was about to go out, Ning Yue called her to stop. Auntie Ning Yue looked around, saw no one around, and whispered to Chen Kailing, "I was afraid that you would suffer, so I told you quietly, you'd better keep a distance from that Muzi. Recently there is news that, said that Muzi is the illegitimate daughter of my uncle who is outside." Chen Kailing's face turned white instantly. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 710. The most beautiful judicial candidate, who looks exactly like the popular presidential candidate, is a topic that is often ridiculed recently. Chen Kailing is also very clear, but these two people have nothing to do with each other, so she never thought about it. Yue, where did you get the news? Chen Kailing was worried, unable to believe the words, is there any evidence? Where would Ning Yue have evidence? She just wanted to provoke Chen Kailing's suspicion, so she was talking nonsense. Her face is the best evidence. Auntie, you are just too kind. Muzi wants to take this opportunity to get close to you, and then to curry favor with our family. Ning Yue looked at Chen Kailing's face and said tentatively, think about it, she brought you a lawsuit, out of gratitude, you will definitely treat her well, and she looks very similar to her uncle, so after going back and forth, will you take advantage of the opportunity to recognize her as a goddaughter? This is what Ning Yue cares about the most. Both of her parents had an accident when she was a child, and she lived with her grandparents since she was a child. Grandpa and Grandma felt sorry for her having no parents, but the idea of patriarchy was deeply rooted, and she would always favor her grandson more, so Ning Yue, a granddaughter, was not considered favored. Later, Grandpa's elder sister, Ning Yue's aunt, had no children and grandchildren, so she was very deserted, and Grandpa had a lot of grandchildren, so she chose Ning Yue to accompany her aunt. Ning Yue lived in Situ's house at the age of 8 and lived there for 12 years. During this period, my aunt mentioned to her uncle and aunt several times, asking them to recognize Ning Yue as her daughter, but they were all rejected. The reason is, not necessary. Ning Yue is not a child of unknown origin, even if she is recognized as a daughter, others still know that she is Situ Yan's niece, so there is no need. What's more, whether she recognizes it or not, she is the most favored junior of the Situ family. Ning Yue felt that they were cruel, they gave her the life of a princess, but did not give her the name of a princess, so she was always in fear. After hearing Ning Yue's words, Chen Kailing finally breathed a sigh of relief when she learned that there was no evidence. Yue, some reporters like to make up and create eye-catching news, but your uncle is not that kind of person, he hasn't even been to Xinjiang, besides, there are many ways to thank people, why should we recognize her as daughter? Yue, don't let your imagination run wild. Although a little displeased, Chen Kailing patiently explained to Ning Yue that she felt that Ning Yue and Muzi had conflicts, so she was prejudiced. Occasional rivalry among young girls is common. Chen Kailing didn't take Ning Yue's words to heart, she went out quickly and went straight to the airport. Ning Yue looked at her back, smiled coldly, picked up her cell phone and made a call. Hello, is this Editor-in-Chief Liu? When going to school on Monday, Muzi always felt that many people were watching her on the road. Did all the students in the school read the news? It suddenly became popular, and Muzi didn't take it seriously. This kind of phenomenon level fire usually doesn't last long. After a few days, the popularity subsides, and the public will naturally forget about it. But the feeling of being surrounded by people was really uncomfortable, and Muzi couldn't help but slander, do these students think that they don't have enough homework, and they still care about paying attention to hot news? When he was about to enter the classroom, Muzi heard someone passing the words quickly. I'm coming. Hurry up, She's about to enter the classroom. Ready? Here she comes. Musa was confused by the rustling noise inside. What's going on? Is it a prank or what? She walked to the door of the classroom and saw that the students were all sitting neatly inside, as respectful as welcoming the head teacher. Then, there was a tidy shout. Cut, bag, skin, huh, huh.